Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. It's got a little bit chilly here, but when I check the temperature, it's something like 8 degrees, but it feels a lot colder because we're at very high altitude here in Nairobi. Not as high altitude as Addis Ababa, however. Macro thoughts 4 months ago, a roaring rally and the dollar sputtered out. Now it is revving back up again. Couldn't agree with that more. It's been very choppy trying to hold on to positions in what has been a very tough 4 months for the dollar bulls like myself. Riot police use tear gas outside the Greek parliament, and this is in the Guardian, and it's just unbelievable, isn't it, the whole situation. Home thoughts, this is all with the Pluto flyby. The extraordinary images of the former ninth planet and its largest moon, Saharan, beamed 4 billion miles back to Earth from the New Horizons spacecraft. 4 billion miles, what a thought. I went back to Carl Sagan. Every one of us is, in the cosmic perspective, precious. If a human disagrees with you, let him live. In 100 billion galaxies, you will not find another. The BBC tweeted Pluto flyby, and the image is so arresting, isn't it? When you see it up close, really takes your breath away. Again, Carl Sagan, we are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it is forever. The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself. Exploration is in our nature. We began as wanderers, and we are wanderers still. We have lingered long enough on the shores of the cosmic ocean. We are ready at last to set sail for the stars. It is said men may not be the dreams of the god, but rather that the gods are the dreams of men. Richard Dawkins says it took New Horizons 9 years to reach Pluto. It would take more than 250 centuries to reach the nearest star, just to put it in perspective, of course. And then I went to Rumi, we come spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust. And there are so many extraordinary places in Kenya where you can see the stars, practically touch them. One of them is Lake Elmentaita, and I'll put up a photograph of Hannah and her mother riding along the seashore. But for some reason it felt very close. Lamu and other Finch Hattons and the Savo. And I'm hoping Surikoi and Lewa. And Hannah and I were looking through the website for it. It looks rather fantastic, so we're really excited. Batteries cannot be repaired before the end of the season. We will have to keep going. This is Solar Impulse. I like the photograph. And then I like this photograph from Kenya Pics, waterboarding in Diani. Political reflections, M.K. Bhadra Kumar, who sort of straddles the world in India, deciphering the Pentagon's latest anger towards Russia. In successive weeks, the United States has ramped up tensions with Russia. 2 highly provocative statements have emanated from the Pentagon. One was the Pentagon report titled 2015 National Military Strategy, issued a fortnight ago, which I touched on, at the instance of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee, naming Russia and China as 2 world powers with which the US may have to fight a war with immense consequences. The second fusillade came during the testimony by the Marine Corps General Joseph Dunford at the US Senate Armed Services Committee last week, where he nailed Russia as the greatest threat to US national security. This is what Dunford said. My assessment today is that Russia presents the greatest threat to our national security. If you want to talk about a nation that could pose an existential threat to the United States, I'd have to point to Russia, and if you look at their behavior, it's nothing short of alarming, he said. Which brings us to a third explanation. He had another 2, which I've discounted. Could it be that the US is genuinely getting nervous about Russia and China and what they are up to lately, and the Pentagon is not really exaggerating? Consider the following. Both the Pentagon report, anticipating a war with Russia and China, and Dunford's sensational remarks appeared in the immediate vicinity of the summit meetings of the BRICS and SCO at Ufa, which were hosted by Russia. The heart of the matter is that the salience of the BRICS and SCO summits last week has been the extraordinary surge of strategic understanding between Russia and China. The Russian president put it succinctly when he told his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping at their meeting in Ufa, combining efforts, no doubt we, Russia and China, will overcome all the problems before us. Such a statement has never before been made openly at a Russia-China exchange at the highest level. What Putin said effectively makes Russia and China allies insofar as he called for their standing up for each other on issues of core interest to either side. In fact, it goes much beyond that. Putin actually called for the combining of efforts by China to defeat the challenges facing the two countries. And this speaks to the point I've been making for a while, that I thought two pivots simultaneously, one to Asia and one to Kiev, was really unnecessary. And that pivot to Kiev thrust Vladimir into Xi's embrace. And this is where we are now. I'll put up a photograph of Xi Jinping attending Putin's VE Day celebrations. That was May the 11th. And go back to a comment I made about Iran, where I said I thought the Iran deal is a game changer, which I still do. Take you back to the 28th of October 2013, when I wrote, if the Pax Americana in the Middle East were a three-legged stool, with the US the most important leg, then Israel and Saudi Arabia the other two legs of that stool, or they were. I said neither Riyadh nor Tel Aviv are aligned with President Obama's Iranian rapprochement. And on July the 15th, Valerie Jarrett tweeted from the Beast, which is soon to arrive here in Nairobi if it hasn't already, POTUS spoke with King Salman regarding Iran and Yemen, reaffirmed strong US-Saudi bonds. They're obviously unhappy. And then Philip Hammond said the question you have to ask yourself is what kind of a deal would have been welcomed in Tel Aviv? The answer, of course, is that Israel doesn't want any deal with Iran. Israel wants a permanent state of standoff, and I don't believe that's in the interest of the region. I don't believe it's in our interest. On July the 8th, Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran's increasing aggression is more dangerous than that of ISIS, and the true goal of this aggression is in the end, is to take over the world. Goodness. I don't think they're that silly. I really don't. I'll put up a photograph of Philip Hammond and myself and Dr. Turner on March the 20th here in Nairobi when he was visiting, and Dr. Turner speaks Farsi, so he might be angling for that ambassadorship in Tehran. Surely an interesting one to have at this moment. Haaretz.com, Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman's escape from maximum security prison. Look at the tunnel they managed to dig. And then I like this on Photo Booth in the New Yorker. Young people hang out on Avenida de los Presidentes in the Vedado neighborhood of Havana. And I thought to myself, Havana was the aperitif, Tehran the main course. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras said he accepted the harsh terms with a knife at my neck. The IMF, however, has proven to be a good ally, produced a brutal assessment of the 86 billion euro deal, which it can only join if it believes the plan would create a sustainable debt path for Greece. Instead, it said the country's debt is set to peak at a highly unsustainable 200% of GDP, and the only way to fix this at the IMF would be to offer debt relief far beyond what Europe has been willing to consider so far. Schäuble shut that down, saying that debt relief under the euro was not something that could be considered. Nanex LLC contrasting volatility in stock index futures for China, which is in red in this image, versus the rest of the world. This is typical, indeed it is. Volatility in China has gone up quite a few notches. Let's move on to the currency markets. The Canadian dollar Canada surged to a 6-year high, Bank of Canada slashed GDP forecasts, lowered their key rate to 0.5% from 0.75%, cut Canada 2015 GDP to 1.1% from 1.9%. Have a look at this chart of the Australian, Canadian and New Zealand dollars, all of which have fallen off a cliff lately. And I'll also put up a chart of 1 year dollar Canada. Do you remember I had a 140 target? No one thought I was that serious. It looks pretty serious now. Euro at 109.31, dollar index 97.26, Japanese yen 123.82. Swissy 0.9534, the pound 156.24. Let me check the Aussie for you, 0.7380. India rupee 63.505. South Korean won 1147.94. Rial 313.90. Egyptian pound 782.93. And the rand at 1242.99. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. We're now at 97.26. My initial target of 100 is within reach now. Euro dollar doesn't trade well now. I think parity is calling once again. I'll put up a 1-month chart for you to take a look at. Holger, another German Bund auction, failed. Sold 4.1 billion euros at a yield of 0.88%, which is the highest since October. They had fewer bids than the amount on offer. That's not a good sign. Gold, let me put up a 1-year chart. We're at 1147. You might get a few bounces, but my objective is $1,000, and I think you can sell it here with a reasonable stop. Crude oil bouncing this morning, but I don't expect that to last. I'll put up a 1-year chart. My target is that low of $44 a barrel that we saw recently. Global dairy prices sank to a 12.5-year low at the latest dairy auction on Wednesday. Prices have fallen more than 60% since 2014, and that has collapsed the New Zealand dollar. Sub-Saharan Africa, King Salman tweeted photos of King Salman receiving Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir in Mecca. Somehow, I cannot imagine the ICC dialing up the king to arrest Bashir. King Salman also tweeted the custodian of the 2 holy mosques, King Salman, received Senegal's Macky Sall. I think because of Eid, everyone's gone over to visit. Rwandan lawmakers predictably backed a motion on Tuesday to let President Paul Kagame run for a 3rd term in office. And I wrote that piece over the weekend where I thought he deserved a 3rd term. Joseph Kraus said since 2002, term limits have been removed in 10 African countries and are under threat in 6 others. The ruling party in Burundi and the opposition parties and the civil society have agreed to negotiate expeditiously, intensively, in order to reach an agreement, President Museveni said. He also urged the people of Burundi to forget their past sectarian political differences and build their country on unity. So let's see what happens next. Don't mess with Grace Mugabe. She could be the next president of Zimbabwe. This is in The Guardian. During a state banquet in Pretoria in April 2015, I had a brief encounter with Grace Mugabe. I was asking her husband, Robert Mugabe, about the question of her succeeding him as president. She doesn't have those ambitions, began Mugabe, the spectacles perched on his nose, reminiscent of an elderly librarian, a narrow moustache clinging to his upper lip like a caterpillar. Suddenly he interrupted himself with mock alarm. Careful, there she comes. The frail 91-year-old, who increasingly resembles a hanger for his well-tailored suits, remained seated. I rose and turned to behold his 49-year-old wife, with her cropped hair and long black dress, lace hanging daintily at the wrist. Grace, who had been the subject of persistent gossip about a serious illness, was returning from an interlude on the dance floor that delighted dinner guests. Hello, David Smith of The Guardian. We were just talking about you. Oh, really? You were talking about me? But I'm dead. I'm a corpse, she replied, smiling. The reports about her ill health had apparently been exaggerated. I just wanted to ask you if it's true you might be president one day, I asked. Her hard features, which can resemble a mask with striking dark eyes and sculpted cheekbones, dissolved into a laugh. She did not deny it. I don't know. Just then a band struck up and I beat a retreat past the glares of South African protocol mandarins, one of whom ordered me to leave, snarling, "I hope we will never see you again." The South African all-share rallied 0.81% yesterday. It's up 5.54% year-to-date. Dollar rand 12.44. I think we might blow out here to 14.50. Egyptian pound 782.75. We've softened up a little bit, but we've sort of steadied here. Egyptian stock market bounced sharply yesterday, 2.55%, but it remains down 10.55% this year. Nigerian all shares down 10.63% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 2.19% year to date. Coming to Kenya, P. Salzano, who obviously works for Eni, tweeted, "In Kenya tra I paesi leader dello sviluppo dell'East Africa, prospettive di crescita e dinamismo sociale." And put up this photograph, black and white one, of the State House in Nairobi, which I liked. Matty Arenzi was in town as well, and he laid a wreath for the people who lost their lives at Garissa. I'll put up that photograph. A lot of interest in this report that came out yesterday, Kenya Broken Promises. The late political scientist Joel D. Barkan wrote in 2013, "Kenya is the anchor of Eastern Africa and the region's geopolitical and economic hub. Conditions there determine the region's stability, security, and prosperity." Though Kenya's 2010 constitution sought to ensure that the country's media and its information, communications, technology sectors develop and thrive, there are worrying signs that old efforts to control the media are undermining this freedom through the passage of poorly drafted, restrictive legislation, commercial pressures, threats and attacks on individual journalists and bloggers. Dangerous temptation to use the security threats facing Kenya to censure or silence the press is witnessed after the attack on Westgate Mall and other violent incidents. The instinct of those in power is that we should have a stronger state, Mutiga told CPJ. They admire Putin more than Obama. Now you have people with a very good spin operation, one of the smoothest in the region. They are the sons of Moi. We have a progressive constitution, but a constitution in the hands of a man can be manipulated in different ways. And I think that is a trend which is worrying and a fact. "This will be the safest mall in the world," said Cohen, an IRG employee who did not wish to give his full name. That's Westgate. Another governor opposes land lease renewal for multinationals. This is Kiambu Governor William Kabogo, who just happens to be a neighbour, actually. He's opposed to the renewal of Del Monte's company's land lease. He said the firm's 20,000 acres of prime land are not beneficial to the people of Kiambu and that they should be subdivided into residential plots. The shilling is around 102. The Nairobi all-share firmed a marginal 0.04%. Yesterday, snapping a losing streak going back to the end of last month. There was only one winning session, end of June, right up till yesterday. NSE 20 retreated 0.04% to close the year down 8.255%. BAT, however, has rallied 13.55% over 2 sessions, which is no mean feat. I'll put up the link there if you want to look into that. Britam, interestingly, has slumped 42.85% year to date now. So yesterday, it's been a brutal July, but there were some signs of the market trying its level best to base out. But the tea segment in the market has been a good story. Captoria tea surged to a new 2015 high. It's up 38.68%. Safaricom eased 0.317%. Close at 15.70. And I think the price has turned defensive. It's down 4.55% in July, all around the tilting of the pitch with relation to M-Pesa. I think it would be seen as plain egregious, and such a move will have spillover risks. Equity surged 5%, traded 45.13 million shares. This must be the stub of Helios's position. They've been harvesting that. It was a pleasure to catch up with Chris Kirubi a couple of days ago at the French Embassy. Centum traded heavily, It's now down 4.098% year to date. As I said, BAT rallied sharply, and then Trans-Century bounced 8.59% to close at 1580, but it's been deeply oversold. It's still down 18.34%. I'm out of town tomorrow, looking forward to going to lower tremendously. That's Sirikoi. So I'll take my leave and return on Monday, hopefully. Thank you for stopping by.